U5 USA now. Homicides in The Hague point to a known serial killer in Crossing Lines, which contains scenes of strong violence and blood from the start and offensive language.
Good evening all, it's 9 o'clock, it's Wednesday, and you are very welcome through the doors of the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge. How do I introduce this guest? Well, 4 years of impeccable service in the red and white of Swindon Town, 183 appearances and 8 stunning goals from centre-back. Player of the Year in 2001-2002, and fair to say a firm favourite with the Swindon Town supporter base. Inducted, no less, into the Swindon Town Hall of Fame in 2016. This man mountain, ladies and gentlemen, of a defender gave absolutely everything for Swindon Town Football Club during his time with us. And I am delighted, my esteemed listeners, to welcome Matty Heywood. How are you, Matty?
I'm all right. I've just got to correct you there because it was actually 208 games. You're only including the league games. And I
I'm
think,
very sorry. Well, I'm pleased you correct me. I'm even prouder, mate, that you're all over your stats.
Yeah, I know. 208 games. I think 13, maybe 14 goals.
How about that?
All of them screamers.
We're not counting Freight Rover Trophy and all that nonsense, though, mate. We're talking about the meat and taters, mate, is what we're talking about.
Hey, listen, first team appearances. That's what counts.
Matty, yeah, I'm still getting over your chip against Chesterfield, mate. I tell you, had me at hello.
See, again, you've gone for the wrong stats. It was Stockport.
Stockport. What was I saying, Chesterfield? Stockport, wasn't it?
You know what I mean? What kind of amateurs are we dealing with here? You know what I mean?
I'm leaving. Tyler can come and do this.
Yeah, indeed. Well, listen, Matty Heywood, if you're going to put me on the ropes, I'm going to get you back on the ropes, mate. A late change of personnel. And not only have you got the club's resident design genius, Dan Designs. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing very well, mate. How are you?
I'm still recovering from Vic Morgan being so very kind and plugging us in front of His Royal Highness Clementi Morfuni this evening. I've just about calmed down, and after thrice change of underpants, I am back on top form. Matty, also joining me is my son and heir, Archer. Say hello to the great man. Hello.
The young goalkeeper to be.
Yes, indeed. Man marker of Richie Wellens at the Low Stranger Shield, no less. And we have photographic evidence of Arch kicking Richie into row Z as well. So, Matty, come on, mate. You'll be a happy man, wouldn't you? You'll be a happy man listening to his questions tonight. And Matty, just in case you think things are being a little bit kind of like timid tonight, I thought we'd bring a little bit of kit room banter on board. So we've got the wonderful Steve Hooper joining us. How are you, Hoops?
Yeah, good. Yourselves?
Yeah. Oh, there's a tired man. You're having a big week, mate, aren't you?
Been a long day.
What have those lads been asking for extra socks or something?
Oh my god, honestly.
Hitman's nightmare. Can I have some kit? No, you fucking can't.
But do you think I'm the kit man?
Oh, brilliant.
Well, you're gentlemen, listen, you're all very welcome, and lovely to see our listener base is growing by the second. Matty, the format of this, mate, is we have, as you've probably seen from the tsunami of tweets that I put out over the last couple of weeks, we've asked the Swindon Town Twitterati to send in their daft questions for you, because we kind of know. We sort, you've been on the Low Stranger, you're on the supporters club. You know, we hear the politically correct side of Matty Heywood, and all we like to do is just inject a little bit of devilment once in a while into the piece to really get under the skin of what makes Matty Heywood tick. Okay. These questions have all come in via direct message or tweet, and I hope you're prepared.
Yeah, crack on, bring it on.
Right. Well, we will, mate. And here we go. Listen, going to open the first one. A little dicky bird has told me shockingly, that you were actually born in Kent. Now, tread carefully, mate, because if the little Dicky Bird is correct, it means that you were born a stone's throw from the Priestfield Stadium. Can you explain yourself?
Yeah, I was. I was born in Chatham in Kent.
Oh, good God,
Chatham,
Chatham.
which apparently is where the word chav originates from.
That's correct.
Yeah. So basically, yeah.
And you know, Matty, let me step in at this point because the word chav, seeing as you brought it up, do you know what that actually stands for?
I don't know.
It's an abbreviation of Council House Alcohol and Violence.
Is it?
Is it really? I didn't know that.
Yes. Well, there you learn something new every day.
I just thought it was chav. I just thought it was just a slang term for a lad who drinks on the corner with a Burberry baseball cap and speaks like a bit of an idiot.
Well, it's actually an acronym for Council House Alcohol and Violence. Now, as a boy that was brought up in the council house, I ain't got a problem with the council house side of it, Matty. But as I said, tread very carefully because now you've poked the stick into the hornet's nest. So, but tell me this, Matty: are you a Kentish man or a man of Kent?
Well, I don't think I'm either. To be fair, I mean, basically my mum's from Kent. My mum's side of the family from Kent. My dad's from Manchester. His side of the family are all Manx. And I was born in Kent. Moved away from there when I was 5, with my dad's work, and ended up in Leeds a couple of years later when I was 7. So, like I say, I was born in Kent, grew up with a northern accent, and it's turned into a bit of a mishmash. But so that's my mum's side of the family. I haven't been down there for probably since the last time I played at Gillingham, to be fair.
Well, Matty, you're not missing a lot, mate. I live on the London-Kent border, and it's fair to say you escaped.
Well, I mean, there are some lovely parts of Kent, the Garden of England, of all that, but Chatham isn't one of them, to be fair, is it?
Yeah. No.
It's
I think you've nailed it. And like I said, for those of you that make the trips to Priestfield when we have to play that mob, it's fair to say it's a fair representation, Chatham, of Gillingham, of what Chatham's all about, but maybe on steroids. But we move on. Archer, do you want to follow up with the next question?
Right, on. So, you made your Burnley debut as a half-time sub. Did you put a laxative in Steve Blatherwick's pre-match cuppa?
No, I didn't, but I had a laxative in mine at half-time because I was shitting myself when he said you're going on at half-time. I've got to be honest. Yeah, absolutely bricking it. I think he dragged 3 lads off at half-time, told them they'd never play for the club again. And me and like another lad, first year pro, Matty, Scotty, go get warmed up. You're going on. It was just like,
and on you went, and the rest is history, Matty. You know,
yeah. I mean, I was
career in the football league.
So I think I was like 4 days before my 19th birthday. So I was literally, I was a kid. I was a first year pro, centre back. You know what I mean? Tall and gangly. And it was like, right, you're going on at half time, 1-0 down. And he dragged 3 senior pros off and said, you'll never play for the club again. And that was it.
And did they ever play for the club again?
No, they didn't, no.
So Matty Heywood was in.
Yeah, I was in for a few games and then probably about 15 games. And then it was about a year and a half on the sidelines, to be fair, getting the old custard pie.
All right, fair dues. Dan Designs, would you like to hit us with the next one?
I will, mate. Yes, some of these questions are outrageous.
I didn't write them, mate.
So whatever this means, I'm sure you'll be able to elaborate, Matt.
Okay.
So it says here, does Adrian Heath use oil of Olay to maintain his cherubic looks?
I don't know. I can't. I don't know where that one's coming from.
Neither do I, mate.
That's an
I'm
interesting
sure.
one, Matt.
I mean, there's obviously something a little bit naughty in it, but I honestly don't know.
Well, I think, now I could be wrong, but Adrian Heath, isn't he one of those guys that he's like nearly 60, but he still looks like he's 6?
Well, I don't know. I think because his football nickname is always Inchy, so because he's small. But he was the first team manager when I was a first year apprentice at Burnley. So that's the connection. But obviously we were pretty sort of isolated from the first team at that point, so I can't really dig any dirt on him, to be fair. He was a nice enough guy. He was all right, but as for oil of ole or whatever. I can't.
I think that's all to do with his youthful looks, personally. But look, we'll move on. Steve, what's the next one we got?
Speaking of Burnley, have you ever been guilty of moidering someone?
Moidering?
Yeah, what?
Moidering.
Or midering? Or moidering?
Moidering. Oh, there you are.
I'm reading what's written.
What's moidering then?
If you mider someone, you're pestering them, you're banging on.
Now come on, you must have done your fair share of midering then, surely, Matty, to get to get your breakthrough into Burnley. Did you ever mider? Were you a miderer? Were you knocking on the old manager's door, giving it all of that?
Well, not as a young lad, because Stan Turner was the manager, and we were all shit scared of him. It was I don't know. There's probably been like a bit of midering on nights out. The photo of the lad talking to the girl in the nightclub, and probably a bit of that, a bit of midering that way. But yeah, not with the manager. Like back at Burnley, like Stan Tennant was old school. He was like, if he was walking down the corridor, you'd be like, get out of the way type thing.
Yeah, you're not gonna mider him. But we all right then. So we thinking of your Swindon Town managers that you served under, Matty. Were you ever guilty of midering any of them? Albeit you can't really mider outside of Burnley, I would imagine. That sounds like local chat.
Yeah, not really, because it was pretty much Kingy, and like Kingy loved me. He was like my second dad, so he was brilliant for me. So I never had to.
Yeah.
Roy
I
Evans.
reckon you could mider Malcolm Crosby though. I reckon he'd be a good midering target.
Yeah, well, Crosby used to do the midering. He'd always be moaning about something or banging on. But he was a great guy, Crosby, a really good guy. Like, and looking back as you get older, you look back at some of the things he used to say to you. As a young kid, you're like, oh, fucking shut up, Crosby. Like, you're boring me here. But you look back now and you think, yeah, he spoke a lot of sense. They were like a real good old school football man.
Yeah, knew his onions. All right, well, goal celebrations, Matty. Firm handshake or a sloppy kiss?
Yeah, I mean, if I scored, I didn't really know what to do because it was so like unexpected. So I'd go, firm handshake, old school. You know what I mean?
So all right. So who of your old teammates who definitely liked a sloppy kiss, and did anyone ever stick one on you when you were in the scrum?
I mean, listen, I'm not adverse to a sloppy kiss. I like one as much as the next man, but it just wouldn't. It was so like if I scored, it was like, oh shit, what do I do here? I never used to know what to do. Stick my arm in the air and be like, let people jump on me. But I don't know. I think Brian Howard and Sammy Igo would have a little sloppy kiss together. To be fair.
Yeah, I can see that.
The
Neville Skulls-esque.
Yeah, the South Coast, like bleach blonde hair boys.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No. I can see that. Yeah. Brian Howard. Having spent a little bit of time with him at Low Strangers Shield. To be fair, he's still an handsome lad. I'd probably give him a sloppy kiss myself. To be fair, I never really got to get involved in any of those, being a goalkeeper. So I think I'd probably go over the top if I had to celebrate me strikes. But moving on, Dan, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, where are we? Let's have a look. Okay, so if you had to relocate to a town or city you represented as a player, where would you most hate to live?
Oof. Well, yeah, I know where. Grimsby.
Grimsby slang.
Yeah, it's absolute shithole. I mean, some parts of Cleethorpes, are actually quite nice, but the sea's brown, the sand's mud, and it smells of fish.
Oh, so the sea's brown and and yet we eat most of our fish from there. From what I don't know whether that's a good advertisement for cutting back on your fish intake, isn't it?
It's a lie as well. The fish and chips ain't that good.
I mean, the thing is, like Grimsby and Cleethorpes, they're two towns. They're based next to each other, but Grimsby itself, you know what I mean, it is actually grim.
It's in the neighbourhood.
And my time there was horrendous. I hated it, and it didn't go well. So I've got nothing but bad memories of Grimsby. To be fair.
Well, we're gonna come back to Grimsby by the look of this, Matty. So hang fire on that. Keep your powder dry.
Yeah. Okay.
Next, right. So, how many bricks could you break with your head?
I mean, what are these bricks? Are they on a firm surface? Are they being thrown at me?
I think you could interpret that, Matt, if you want.
Let you take the stage there.
Explain as you would.
What would be your preferred method of attack if someone was lobbing bricks at you?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're just, you're hanging him up there to go and attack, I could get through a few, yeah.
Nice.
If you put them in a pile, then you just got to do like a sort of, like a karate headbutt or whatever. I'm not so sure, but if you hang them up there, sort of back stick, I'll go and head them. Yeah, probably.
If I could jump in here, and pardon the decorum, but we're talking sort of like Oxford centre forward. How many pricks could you break with your head? No, sorry, shouldn't have said that. Let's move on.
Couldn't help yourself. No,
I couldn't. Well, it was teed up for me in the question. I'm very sorry for anyone I may have offended, but we're after the watershed, ladies and gentlemen. Steve, would you like to take the next one?
Cool. You and Andy Gurney.
Yep.
Who wins in the octagon?
Me.
Good.
Yeah, Gurney. I mean, he looked a scary man. He was an aggressive man. Like he did. If he'd had a few drinks, he would have a fight with someone. But yeah, in an octagon, I'm doing him in. Yeah.
How are you doing him?
I think preferred method. I'd end up just gripping him up, get the arm around the neck, and put him to
choke
sleep.
Him out.
Yeah, I did that to a young goalkeeper at Brentford once, messing around and absolutely shit myself.
You put a Brentford apprentice to sleep, Matty.
So he wasn't an apprentice. He was the sub first team keeper, like a lad called Clark Masters, and we used to. I mean, when I was at Brentford, it was a great sort of team spirit in that. When you were away in the hotel, lads used to burst into each other's rooms, just have like wrestling matches, like mess about, just like real childish stuff. And Clark was a really chirpy lad. Like he was only 21, but he was a big, strong lad. And after one game, he chirped up to me and the other keeper, Stuart Nelson, was like, right, me and you two in that cubicle there, the toilet cubicle in the first team dressing room, we'll fucking have it out. Yeah, we'll have it. So Nelson's opened the door, pushed Clark in, and I've stepped in after him, and I've just grabbed him round the neck straight away, got him in the sleeper hold, and he's trying to reach back and grab me by the bollocks. So I'm arching away, and I've got him in the sleeper. I've got it locked on for however long, and I've let go of him, and he's just gone bang. He's crashed, absolute sparkle against the fucking cubicle, slumped.
Oh.
And I absolutely shit myself. I'm like slapping him round the face. I'm like, Clark. And he sort of come round all groggy. He's looked up at me, and I was like, the relief. And then I'm like, that's what you get when you mess with the big boys.
You big bully. You big nasty man.
But he loved it. And he loved it. The crack after that, he was like, oh, fucking hell, I can't believe it. So, yeah, but I did panic, to be fair.
Well, all right. So, on a similar vein, who's your tag team partner if the entire football league had a Royal Rumble? Who's your tag team partner, and what are you wearing?
The football league from what era? From when I played?
From your era. Who's your tag team partner in the football league Royal Rumble, and what are you wearing? Says the question.
Oh, again, from lads I played with or played against, or?
Yeah, go for it. Go for your life. You pick away. The Royal Rumble, at the end of the day, you can't really have tag teams, do you? So I think the question is fundamentally flawed, but it looks like they're giving you an opportunity to team up.
Well, to be fair, there was a guy who was a player at Burnley when I was there. He was like a senior pro. I was a young lad. A bloke called Vince Overson.
Oh, yes. Vince Overson, ex-Stoke. He was hard as nails.
So Vince was ex-Stoke, ex-Burnley a couple of times, and he was an absolute unit. He was a lovely fella. He was a cracking fella, but he was a tank. And I remember looking up to him as a young centre-back. And yes, like I'd have him as a tag team partner all day long. Absolute unit.
Bloody hell! I can imagine you like that's got to mean, I don't know. I'm not big on me wrestling, so hopefully someone else can step in here and help me, boys. But was it Kane? And is it Kane meant to be the Undertaker's brother? A couple of absolute stackhouses in there throwing their weight.
Yeah, I think so. So a couple of big units. we're looking at some tight lycra.
No, see, I can imagine you emerging out of a coffin. I reckon there's some psychological games in there.
Yeah, maybe,
And,
but
and the death stare.
I'm talking, you're talking sort of, high boots, tight, it might be black, but we're talking, some latex, bigger hugging, and then.
I'm just ultimately, I'm chuffed that Dan Designs is listening in, because he did tell me that he's thinking about Matt Heywood print, and I hope you're taking notes here, Dan, because this is designer's gold, surely.
Listen, mate, it's not going to be your standard centre back going up for a header. This one, I'm telling you now. It's going to be face paint. There's going to be latex boots. Yeah, there's going to be a ring in the back. Oh yeah, it's going to be good.
I mean, the thing is, as a kid, I was never massively into the wrestling, but if I had to pick one, I'm going Ultimate Warrior. You know what I mean? Grab onto the rope, shake it, get all aggressive and that. Bit of face paint, some tassels, and obviously the physique is very similar.
Yeah, well, yes, indeed.
Draw your mullet on as well.
Yeah.
Hoops, this next question's got Hoops name written all over it. Go on, Hoops.
Brilliant. Rory Fallon, Rhys Evans, David Duke. Shag, marry, avoid.
I'm avoiding Rory because he had a massive cock. I'd shag Rhys because he's not the best looking lad, and I'd marry Dukesy because he was a really good looking lad, intelligent, just a nice boy. So he'd make a really.
So we're avoiding Rory.
Yeah.
You're marrying Dukey, and you're having a bit of a rotten night with Rhys.
Yeah.
Now, I think you're about to learn something here, Dan. Do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, well, I'm still recovering from the Rory Fallon comment. Yeah, so is it true you taped your nipples during the 2002 season?
I don't think so, no.
Now that's got to be a reference, Matty, to that. What was it, 2000 denier shirt?
All right, yeah, maybe. I mean, to be honest, there was the odd occasion throughout my career where I did stick some tape on your nipples when you get that chafage, but I couldn't say definitively when it was. But that shirt was like, basically, at half time it weighed about 3.5 kilos if you got the sweat. It's like something your grandma had knit, yeah.
So what was the story behind that shirt, mate? When that shirt, I mean, I can imagine, because I don't know whether it's the same in the pro game, but I'm guessing so. Hoops, you'll be able to chip in on this. When you walk into the change room at the start of the season, you've got the new kit all lined up. That's quite a special moment for anyone that likes their football. So can you remember what you thought when you walked in and saw that hanging up?
I mean, I'm pretty sure like you walk in and be like, this is horrendous. I mean, I can look back at my time at Swindon and we had like the cheapest kit makes ever. I mean, it was awful. Apart from, I think when I joined, it was Zara, and to be fair, the kits weren't bad. But then after that, it was like just names that they're no longer, they don't make kits anymore. They're just, and you look at it now, and they're, back then it was like massive shorts, massive shirt, like thick and horrible. It's just, grim. But yeah, you'd walk in and be like, oh, look at the state of this.
And there was a bit of before its time as well. There was a bit of an open collar jobby going on. I mean, you could have wore some gold with that and pulled it off. There was a little bit of Vegas, that collar, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just wasn't good. And then as well, back in the at the time, it was like you'd have your shirts were massive. You know what I mean? Look at likes of Sammy Igo and stuff. Probably had a medium shirt on, like hanging halfway down to their knees, like so baggy. Just I mean, look at the kits now, and they're sort of fitted and all the material and stuff, and everyone's either one of the sort of 4 or 5 big brands, and it's like, yeah, that's all right, but back then we with some awful kits.
That kit we've actually got one in the kit room, and it's stayed in the cupboard because I do not want to put that thing on.
Yeah.
You stole my thunder, Hoops, because I was going to ask the kit man's view on that shirt, because that, I mean,
it's horrific.
you would have surely been campaigning to the club owners to have sorted that out, mate, wouldn't you, if that was in the modern day?
Oh my God, it
It
wouldn't
was
have
like
lasted.
someone knitted it.
It wouldn't have lasted. It wouldn't have got through the first meeting. That. I mean, don't know who's deciding that. Who's looking at that when they're doing the meeting and they're going, "Yeah, that looks good. But what materials are going to be? Right? Yeah, no, that'll be fine." How's that happened?
Yeah, I don't think there was. I don't think there was much technical input there, was there? While you're talking, Steve, do you want to take the next one? This also looks right up your alley.
Oh, brilliant! Here we go. Do you accept that your joining Bristol City was a despicable act of treachery? How will the good Lord judge you at the pearly gates? And this is quite funny because I used to work at Bristol City prior to coming to Swindon. so you know, it's a bit of a, there's nothing wrong with it.
It's a bit bottom kettle, mate. It's a little bit bottom kettle.
Well, I've no interest in how the good Lord judged me at the pearly gates because I don't believe in him for a start. So there you go. Yeah, no, I totally disagree. It was a career decision, not necessarily in an ideal world that I would have made, but it was the right decision at the time. I mean, I've talked many times about the history, like what was going on at Swindon and with the wages and the club was an absolute shambles back then, and there was no one that wouldn't have taken that career move. It was going well for the first half of the season until I got injured and I sort of never recovered from it. But in an ideal world, would I have liked to stay at Swindon and played another 200 games? Of course I would, but it just wasn't realistic. I mean, the club at that point was an absolute shambles.
Mm. Well, I've just noticed there's another question coming up in relation to that. But Dan, you should probably ask the next one first.
Yeah, okay. So it says here, Mooney to the Pox. What was the dressing room's reaction?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose as fans, you'd like to hear it was like there was outrage and whatever, but it was. I don't know. It's just. It happens, doesn't it? I mean, did he go? He went straight to Oxford, didn't he, from Swindon?
He did.
Yeah.
And he's since openly apologised for that, Matt, as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, like Moon, he was a really good lad. I got on really well with him, and he was obviously a top player. And it's not like, he was angling for that move. He would have ideally stayed, but it's just, the situation that Swindon were in at the time. And what you got to think is, obviously, Moon's had a great season at Swindon, but he'd had a great career, and he had no real loyalty to Swindon. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's a career. I know it's sometimes hard for fans to realise, but for him, it was it was near his home. It was easy to commute. It was just one of those things, really. So I don't think, from a player's point of view, you can look at it and go, "Oh, what a wanker." But, I mean, he's still a bit of a wanker, but fair play to him.
Speaking of merchant bankers, Aidan Flint goes to shake your hand. What's your course of action?
Well, to be
that ties quite nicely into the previous question, or the one prior to Mooney.
Well, to be fair, I met the only time I've met Aidan Flint I was on like a lad's holiday in Vegas. So I'd gone with my a lad who used to play with the Brentford. It was his stag do. Went to Vegas, and it was the year that Swindon got promoted under Di Canio, I think.
Yep.
So we're in this like pool party and whatever, and I was chatting to Alan Connell, who I played with at Brentford. Mm-hmm. And Aidan Flint was there, and we were chatting, and Al was like, we were chatting, me, Al, and Aidan Flint. He was like, "Matty, you need to fucking teach him how to fucking head the ball." He was like, "He's fucking," I was like, "Oh, we were having a bit of crack and that." I'd retired at this point, and then obviously from then, he went on to have do unbelievably well because he'd only really just joined from. Where did he join from?
Alfreton, I think.
Alfreton, yeah. So he was pretty raw at the time, and he was a big old lad, and he, So I was like, "Fucking Matty, teach him how to head the ball." But yeah, he was a nice enough lad. But yeah, he got his move, and he obviously had real success at Bristol City. But to come out and say what he said was a bit naughty, I think.
And I think actually, whilst this is all a bit banter, I think that's one of the reasons why you were very quickly forgiven, Matty. To be fair, because whilst you obviously went over to City, you were seen by many to have done it the right way. Whereas, I think Mr. Flint quite enjoyed twisting the knife a little bit after he went. But
see, I, like I said, in an ideal world, I would have loved to stay. I was very honest about it. I mean, Kingy was like, he said, look, we can offer you 1 year. We can give you this. That's the most we can give you. Like, we literally, we've got nothing else. At the same time, I knew Sam was leaving, Grant was leaving, Brian was leaving, the budget was getting cut again. By this point, we were still getting paid by cheque. Professional football club getting paid by cheque, had been like that for 4 years.
Yeah.
1 week late, 2 weeks late, 2.5 weeks late, half after this home game, half after, and that's what it was like pretty much my whole time at Swindon. And then probably from halfway through the season, I knew Bristol City were interested, and then like my agent spoke to them, and they were like, right, 3 years, bum 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 bum, and obviously, big club, they're always going to be sort of pushing towards the top end of the league, and it was just one of those where I'd sort of had enough of the not getting paid, and you won't get this, and like I say, I loved Kingy, and I loved the lads. I had a great time there, but it was just as a career move, it had to happen.
We've forgiven you, Matty. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We've forgiven you.
Like I say,
put your tissues down, big man. Put those tissues down.
Yeah. But when John Richardson come and asked me on the old radio, for the advert, I just said, look, this is why I'm leaving. We don't get paid on time. Clubs are shambles. I'd love to stay, but they've offered me 3 years, and
yeah, and fair play. And fair play to you.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Dan,
See you later.
I don't know if you'll get the next one yourself, Dan, but I'll let you tee this up to Matty. This is
Yeah,
a real question.
Tee it up, but again, no idea what we're going with here. So simple as this. It just says Eric Sabin ? Or Sabin.
yeah, like quick as fuck, really good lad, terrible footballer.
Next Thierry Henry, aren't you?
Yeah, the next Thierry Henry. Now, that you must have been... When Kingy's saying things like that, Matty, what must you have thought when you see him walking through the door? And then, were there any stories around when you first started seeing... Because Eric was a terrific lad, wasn't he? Were there any funny stories about when he first arrived?
No, not that I can remember. I mean, Kingy used to come out and spout shit all the time, so you just sort of took it with a pinch of salt. But, yeah, like I said, Eric was a great lad. He was so quick. I mean, he must have won us about 10 penalties that season. But it was a case of, if he was through on goal, you were hoping he got brought down, because if he had a chance to shoot, he wouldn't have scored.
Yeah, Matt O'Halloran would have been the top scorer that season.
Yeah, Keith O'Halloran.
Keith O'Halloran.
Yeah, but technically Eric was awful. You know what I mean? But he was so quick. He was a threat. And if there would have been someone up there with him, with like a sort of a target man who could bring the ball in, and you could go him the other way over the top. But sort of at the same time, we had Danny Invincible, who was a bit unpredictable himself. So it didn't really work.
Do you want to take the next one?
Most annoying goalkeeper you've played in front of. Please say it. Please.
They're all fucking annoying, but Reece is Mr. Busy. To be fair, I'd say Reece was probably real busy. I'm trying to think now. Who do you want me to say?
Hoops isn't satisfied with Reece.
You must have played in front of Mildy.
Oh, he played in front of Mildy, but yeah, Mildy was alright. He was alright. So yeah, when I first joined, Mildy was the goalkeeper. So I think Mildy's like a year older than me. I was 21, he was probably 22, and I thought Mildy at that time was top draw. I really enjoyed playing in front of him. He was massive. He used to come for crosses, catch everything. I come in and was just heading everything, and be like, "Fucking hell, you just head everything." I was like, "Yeah, you catch everything." We were like, "Yeah." We had a load of clean sheets. He was like, "Yeah, this is all right." And then he left. He left in the off season. So, but yeah, I can't remember him being like super. But Reece was he was just busy. He was just Mr. Busy.
Give us, come on, you must have a couple of stories tied in with that busy.
No,
chat,
I mean, and looking back now, like, it's a good thing. You know what I mean? He was Mr. Professional. He was Mr. in the gym, doing his stretching, his yoga, his all this. I mean, which no one else used to do because it just wasn't the thing back then. And it's only now that sort of look back, when I retired from football, I worked as a PT for about 4 years, and look back and think about all the strength and conditioning that we didn't do ever, and just think, fucking hell. But sort of Reece was doing that, but at the time, it was like, look at that busy prick in the gym doing this. Like, we're off to the pub, or we're playing golf, and that's just how it was back then. And it's sort of embarrassing to look back and think that, but that's what it was.
So you mentioned him earlier, Matty, and the next question simply reads, what's your favourite Andy King quote?
Zoom is on a bed, it's not a good thing, G.
Ooh. Whoa, I mean, there was, oh God, so many.
G,
I think an
seriously?
actual quote. I mean, there'd been lots of expletives in there.
Did he have a favourite expletive, Andy King?
I mean, to me, it was probably "you fucking big cunt."
You had a great relationship with Kingy, didn't you, man?
Yeah, I loved him. Yeah, got on really well with him. It was chalk and cheese from what had come from Stan Turner to come down and meet him as the manager. Like, my first day I came down, I travelled down with Sean Reid, who was a scout, and he picked me up on the M6, and we travelled down. And training had been called off because the pitch was frozen. And I got to the ground to meet the manager, and this guy comes in. He's like, "Fucking hell, you're a big prick, aren't you? Fucking yeah. Oi, fucking get him some kit. Fucking let's go in there, have a game of fucking head tennis." So this is me and the new manager. Bearing in mind, the old manager at Burnley wouldn't even speak to the young lads. He just pied them. So yeah, me and Kingy are in there playing head tennis, and he's just like one of the lads. And I was like, "Is this the manager?" Because I didn't know him, and I'm sort of thinking, this can't be the manager. And he's fucking this and fucking that. Yeah. And I was just like, this is. Oh. And then from there, we just we had a great relationship.
Do you think that approach, given all the stuff that you said was going on with the club being a bit of a shambles at the time, Matty, do you think that Andy King's approach actually helped or hindered him back then? Because there's always that thing, is there, about number two becoming a manager? But given the sort of rather unusual backdrop, players getting paid by cheques and whatnot, my gut says that must have helped. But what was your professional view on it?
Yeah, for me, because I got on really well with him, and there was a split, so you definitely loved him or hated him. And I know when you play football, if you're not in the team, you don't like the manager. But his personality was obviously, like, if he didn't like you, if you weren't a lad, you know what I mean. If you didn't have a little bit about you, Kingy just wouldn't really have you. But if you were, and you worked hard and you did all the stuff that you got to do football wise, but you had a bit of crack and you had a bit of personality about you, then he'd be all over it. And that, I've told the story before, when the club was struggling and lads weren't getting paid, like, he'd get us all down the canteen, tell us, right, we've said you get half wages after this and half after that game, and the next home game you get this. But he'd say to the young lads, look, if any of you are struggling to pay your bills, come and see me and I will lend you the money personally.
Wow.
Which he did, and he did do that, and because even at the time then, I think in my first year, I mean, I joined them about 330 quid a week, and like 300 appearance. So if I was playing, that's all right. But there are lads there, sort of, not on great money, playing in the first team, like 19, 20 years old, on 300-400 quid a week, who've got mortgages or rents or this, all these payments, not getting paid 2 weeks late. And Kingy said, look, come see me. I'll lend you some money out of my account. Yeah, you can pay me back.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because so many of those stories kind of came out after he left the club or after
Gee.
the passing.
Jeez.
And I think history's certainly been kind to Andy King in terms of how he's regarded at Swindon
Put your
Town.
hand like that.
Like he's,
Just try to
you won't find many people that there will always be people that have a poke about tactical prowess and Antoine van der Linden playing up front, but by the same token, I think most people now when you mention Andy King's name, there's usually a chuckle somewhere along the line, and it's all good natured banter. So interesting times. What Dan, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, sure. Sounds like something I'd do as well, actually, this one. So, how often did you cheat at cards?
No, there was no cheating in the card school.
All legit.
Yeah, I mean that'd get you seriously hurt cheating in the card school.
It really
Well,
doesn't
Matty,
matter.
this question, I've been told I'm not allowed to say who it's come from, but suffice to say, someone might have some inside information on you here.
Well, I deny. So
Someone's obviously not happy that they lost a game of cards with you, mate. That's what it is.
Ow!
Yeah, can you think back, Matty? Was there ever a
Really,
raised eyebrow or a crossed word?
no, honestly, there wasn't. I mean, we used to love a game of cards. And to be fair, Kingy used to get involved in it. We used to play a game called Brewery, which is a little bit like Trumps. So we'd have like a school that'd be like me, Reevesy, Gerns, Bobby Howe, Steve Robinson. And then sometimes we'd play poker. Kingy used to get involved, to be fair, a lot of the time. So he'd be playing in the card school. There'd be times we'd get to an away game, so you're there Friday night, you'd have your meal, and you'd be sitting down the reception. Should we have a game of cards? Kingy would join in, and he'd be like, right, okay lads, let's call it a day, let's go to bed. And Kingy would be like, no, one more game, especially if he was down losing. But yeah, I used to enjoy the old card school.
Good stuff. Hoop, do you want the next one?
Yeah, go on then. Where are we? Where are we up to? Oh, okay. John Lennon or Liam Gallagher?
Liam Gallagher, can't stand John Lennon.
Agreed.
Agreed. You should ask the next one as well, I reckon.
Go on then. Favourite Neil Ruddock story?
What that I can tell. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be fair. A lot of the stories I couldn't tell. But in all fairness, like Razor, he was a great lad, Razor. Obviously, he came in on like ridiculous money. Bearing in mind, we were getting paid by check and all that, on not great money, and he came in on about $5,000 a week.
That's mad. They don't even get paid that now.
Yeah, but I mean, he used to love. He used to love going out on the old Swallow and stuff. And even when Roy Evans left and then Kingy came in, like for Kingy, he was like, he shouldn't have got on with him because he was brought in by the old regime on all the money, so which meant Kingy had no money for the rest of the squad. So he should have resented him, but as fellas, they just got on too well. He just liked him too much. They just loved each other.
Yeah.
So it was like hard for him to like be resentful to him. But yeah, Razor was, he was a coach. I say coach. But yeah, we were up at Womber training. Obviously, Razor had been out the night before, and he'd like Razor take him on a warm up. So we're jogging around all the outside of the pitches, and then next thing, Razor's in the bushes just chundering up.
I'll tell you what's interesting, Matty. We had Sam Parkin on a couple of weeks ago, and Sam was actually very charitable about Razor, because obviously he's a figure that, from a professional football point of view, isn't very well regarded at our place still, as you'll be aware of. But
Yeah.
Sam's view was, he talks about your pre-season at Southport,
Yeah.
and how much effort Razor actually made to kind of pull that squad together, into a cohesive unit. How welcome he made Sam himself, and where Sam was very open about some of his own sort of fragilities in terms of the mental side of the game, and Sam was pretty clear about it. Without Razor, Sam doesn't think that or he certainly, I'm sure he would have scored a load of goals, but Sam was saying he kind of gave credit, a huge amount of credit to Razor for Sam getting off on a flyer. Would you say that's fair from your point of view?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like from my point of view, Razor was a great lad. I loved him. We got him brilliantly. he was absolutely top draw. Like he's just the character that he is. Obviously, he wasn't in the best physical shape, but he was still, he was still a good player. And it wasn't his fault, that he was on the money that he was on, and who wouldn't have done what he did. But yeah, I mean, he was great. He was good for me because we played together a little bit, but he was genuinely pleased for me when I was playing well, because that was the season that I won the Player of the Year and stuff, and he was genuinely like always in my ear, giving me sort of encouragement and a bit of advice. But yeah, what a life he's had. He came down to Swindon and he lived the rock and roll life, really. But who can blame him?
£5 a week, you're going to, aren't you?
Well, exactly. Yeah, £5 a week, and that's probably the worst money you've earned in the last 10 years. So
yeah.
So he was enjoying the tail end of life. Well, we'll talk about lads that were also known to enjoy the night spots in Swindon. How about this? Giuliano Grazioli. I was going to call him Danny Invincible because I won't accept any of this Invincible nonsense. So Giuliano Grazioli, Danny Invincible, Brian Howard. Who spent more time in front of a mirror?
Oh, I'd say Danny. Yeah, Danny all day long. Yeah.
What a good looking boy, though, to be fair. I think I said recently on a tweet, if I had the looks of Danny Invincible and the charm of George Clooney, I reckon I'd conquer the world.
Yeah, well, all of them really good lads. Danny was a good looking lad. He was sort of, I don't know, like Gratz was just, back in the day Gratz was a stunner, but he wasn't like a pruning in front of the mirror, whereas Danny would be. Brian, yeah, I don't know, him and Sammy Igo used to get off pretty sharpish, get in the car and get off down to Southampton. So, but yeah, I've got stories on both of them, to be fair, but I can't tell.
All right, Dan, do you want the next one?
Yeah, sure thing. So, Matty, you were known as a towering defender, but which triumphs in a tower off? The Tower of London or the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
Come on, some people have got to get a life.
Exactly. The clues in the question, isn't it? One's leaning, so all you need is a little nudge, isn't it? So
it's off, yeah. I thought it was going to be a serious question at the start, and then I carried on reading it. I thought, oh god, where are we going here?
And I know it's funny, but we're all double-hard in London as well.
Yeah, not necessarily on the Kent border though. You're a little bit more flouncy around there.
Well, yeah, we're all wearing Burberry caps and hanging around in Chatham. That's what we're doing.
Chavs.
Do you? This one's got a bit of hoops on it, I reckon.
Go on then. Sammy Igo or Matty Hewlett, who would make a better postie?
Yeah, Matty Hewlett.
Why?
Yeah, all day long, like just work ethic, hard worker. Not necessarily fancy, but he'd get about his business. Like Sammy Igo, if it was raining, he'd be like, "Oh, I'm not going out today." You know what I mean? And if there was a heavy parcel, Sammy could pick it up because he's so small. And yeah,
Matty,
I don't know how seriously you're thinking about this.
Sammy's got the buggy, is he? Is that what we're saying?
He's pretty small, and as well, if customers start complaining, then Matty Hewlett could 2-foot them as well. So, yeah, definitely Matty.
A very understated part of Matty Hewlett's game, Matt, by the way.
Oh, he
very understated.
I remember when I was at Burnley, Matty Hewlett came on loan when I just sort of got into the first team. He came on loan from Bristol City, and he was like a silky footballer, 2-footed. He was really good 2-footed, Matty. He looked the part. He was handsome as fuck as well. But he'd get on the ball and stroke it about. But then, yeah, later career, he was nasty. Like he'd love a tackle. He could leave it in there, and he was sort of underrated in the job that he did for us.
Yeah. All right. So we got a couple of a similar vein. What's your greatest postman fail, Matty Heywood? What's your favourite your greatest postman fail?
I would probably say getting the van stuck in the mud.
Ooh.
Yeah. So delivering down over in East Leach, which is a lovely part of the world. Gone down to a farm. I couldn't be bothered to get out and open the gate, drive in, turn round, come out, shut the gate. So I thought I'd just turn around in this little bit of grass. And yeah, that was it. Tyre was in, sunk, and I was stuck.
So that's a whole town without their post.
Well, it was basically, I mean, it's literally a farm in the middle of nowhere, so I had to walk for about half a mile. Bumped into some guy who was in like in a Range Rover and said like, oh, and he was like, oh, just so happens that's one of our farms. I'll get someone to come and pull you out. Real, you know. And so, you know, half an hour later, some guy turned up in a tractor and towed me out. But I was like, oh.
Oh, Matty Heywood in the mud no more though. Well, all right. So, what's in fact, here, Dan, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, sure. So, describe the most hated dog encounter on your rounds.
Well, I've been bitten 3 times. 2 of those by Jack Russells. Horrible,
evil
little shits.
Horrible little dogs. Yeah. So yeah, I've walked into an address where we know there's a dog. The gate was shut. It's normally open, but the front door looks shut. And as I've walked through the gate, the front door's open. The dog's come from the back of the house, just run straight out. And the first thing he did was just bite me on the shin.
Oh.
So then I'm trying to like shoo it away, and the owners are panicking. They're like, oh, the woman's having a heart attack, and it's like blood's pouring down my leg, and it's like, oh.
Did they know you were, Matt? Like, were they panicking because they were expecting Rosette?
No, I don't think so. But you know, it's one of those things that whereas now, like I mean, you get this as a person all the time, but literally, if I walk in, I love dogs. I love big dogs. Give me a big dog any day because they give you a big woof, and you know what's happening. But Jack Russell's just run out and fucking bite you. And again, there was another one, Jack Russell that ran out and bit me on the ankle. And this dog, she still walks it off the lead and it comes running up to her. And I've said to her, look, I said, if your dog comes near me again, I'm going to absolutely launch it over those trees.
It's the printer, Jim.
I shouldn't laugh at that, but it makes sense. Listen, I don't want to digress too much, but it's down to the owner. You know, how hard is it to just keep your dog inside the house?
Yeah, of course it is. But again, like a big dog at least gives you a warning, or there's a little bit of like a standoff. Jack Russell's just run out and fucking bite you.
Oh, they don't care, do they? They just don't.
Next time he does it, just stick him in the channel.
Well, that is the thing. So now I am wearing. If I see this thing coming, I'm like, right, you're getting a size 11 and you're getting sent.
The copers are going on.
Hoops, do you want to do the next one?
Go on then. If Hermes is the messenger of the gods, who is Matty Heywood?
Who says Hermes are the messengers of God?
Well,
not the bloke who delivers mine.
That's all we can do is give you the question, but I do believe there's some truth in that. I believe that Hermes is actually named after the messenger of the gods.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
There
we go. Well, I'd say I'm the Messiah.
Well, speaking of the Messiah, the next question is, could you deliver a baby?
Yeah, I have done several times. I trained as a midwife after retiring from football.
Oh, come on, mate. You never did.
No, I didn't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. When we had our daughter, we were booked in for we were having a home birth. It was going to be like a water birth at home, blah blah blah. Mrs. went into labour and it all happened really quick.
Oh my God! Wow.
So we ended up getting rushed to the hospital and doing it there. But yeah, watching that, I don't think I could. But you can always drag it out, can you?
Yeah, I think you probably could. Hoops, we got a technical win. It looks like we're swerving back towards football. So this feels like you should own this one.
Go on then. As a centre back, what were your favourite instructions for the transition from defence to attack or attack to defence?
See, I saw this question earlier. What a load of bollocks that is.
Good.
Right.
I think that's probably the answer we were looking for, Matt.
Yeah. So from the transition from attack to defence, it was like, right, get behind the fucking ball, and then the other way, it'd be like, drive on, or you know what I mean, just quick, get forward quickly, just drive on with the ball. But yeah, transitions, do me a bit.
Transitions. It was a different time, Matt. It was a different time.
Wasn't it just?
Dan, do you want the next one?
Yeah, sure. So, favourite dirty trick ever played or seen played on an opponent, which kind of leans into what you just said about it being very different times.
Yeah, I mean, there used to be a lot of that. Who was good at that? Reeves, was really good at that. Yeah, so he sort of opened my eyes to like being horrible. You know, if you get me, because I couldn't have Swindon 21 and sort of played next to Reevy. Both of us like slow as fuck. You know, no pace, but Reeves, he could be horrible, and he was one of them for like, you know, pinching the skin, standing on their Achilles, getting in their ear. And I heard him say to, you know, certain players some things that would be totally unacceptable now and bang out of order, but he'd say it just to get under their skin, and it used to work a lot of the time.
Well, he was well schooled because he's obviously his previous club. He was with the Crazy Gang, wasn't he? And they were obviously famed for it. So I'm sure. I wonder whether or not that was his steep learning curve, or whether that was just part of his game. Did he ever talk about his time at Wimbledon, Matty?
Yeah, he did. No, he did. Yeah, I mean, he loved it there, and he told stories about Big Mick. I think one story, he was at Wimbledon and Big Mick was playing at front, Big Mick Harford, and I think they were playing Tottenham. I can't think who it was. Who was giving it some. And after the game, basically, he said that Mick Harford walked into the Tottenham dressing room by himself, and all the Tottenham lads are sitting around, and he basically just offered them all out on his own, and not one of them stood up. No one did anything.
Now, I've got a story along similar lines. I'm going to do a bit of shameless name dropping from my 442 days, Matty. So I was very... we used to host an annual dinner in Manchester for all the sports manufacturers who come spend all their advertising money with the magazine. And my guest of honour one year was David Platt. And it must have been about 3, 4, maybe 5 years prior. I was at a Wimbledon Arsenal game at Selhurst Park, and I saw... there was a proper old-fashioned, real 90s goalmouth scramble. And all the tackles were flying in, and there were block tackles, and there was, Vieira was flying in. I could see Vinnie Jones was flying in. Even Robbie Earl was flying in. And I'll never forget it, because I watched it intently. You saw Vinnie Jones go flying in, and the next thing you know, Ian Wright's got Vinnie Jones sort of by the scruff, and they're having a little bit of push and shove. And as you say, Mick Harford just... stepped in from stage left, and I've never seen Ian Wright. Obviously, has got a reputation for being really waspish, and all you saw was Wrighty show his palms and just turn away and walk off really quick. So I'm sat next to Platty at this football manufacturer's do, and I said to him, Platty, do you remember this incident at Wimbledon? And he literally held his hand up and went, I'll stop you there. And he went, I'll tell you a story. He said, do you want to know about hard men in football? He said, Vinnie Jones was a tough guy. He said, but the one that everyone feared was Mick Harford. He said, when he wanted to, he said he would have you. And I said, you know what he said to Wrighty that day? And he said something along the lines of, apparently just leant in and whispered in Wrighty's ear, you lay another finger on Jonah and I'll eat you. And and that was it. And the melee just ended like that with Mick Harford's arrival on the scene. But what was Big Mick like during his time at Swindon?
Yeah, brilliant. Loved him. He was a great bloke. Sort of knew him a bit before because he was Kingy's best mate. And basically, the fact that they were best friends explains a lot about how Kingy was like he was. You know, as gobby as he was. If he had a drink and whatever, he'd be out and he'd be chirping and whatever. Because he was always with Big Mick. So if he got in trouble, and there were several times when he did, Big Mick could just sort it out.
Yeah.
Because he was a genuine hard man, and there were times when he just filled 3 lads in because they were getting involved. He's sort of up there with Billy Whitehurst and that sort of legendary, and that's why Kingy was as gobby as he was, because he could be.
Yeah.
Because you know, if he was with Big Mick, he'd be like, "Hey, you this, you fucking that, you this," and then, but anyone chirps up, Big Mick would be in, like hands like shovels, just with that look, the scowl, and just like, yeah. But a lovely fella, absolute cracking man. And yeah, he'd gone to Rotherham as manager, and he was when I was leaving Swindon, he wanted me to sign for Rotherham for him. Obviously, I ended up going to Bristol City, but yeah, great fella.
Yeah, great fella, and obviously having his own battles as well at the moment. And obviously, we wish Big Mick well, because he really is like a legend in football circles. And obviously, I'm sure there's not a Swindon Town fan that's aware of Mick's time at the club that doesn't push that over those best wishes over to him as well. Steve, moving on. Do you want the next one?
Just before I say it, who's got a Jack Russell?
Well, who had a Jack Russell?
No, that's me. It's a toy poodle, actually. I told him there was a postie on the line, and
He's been put in the channel, hasn't
he? He was well off cue there, wasn't he? He was well off cue.
I mean, look, I'll take any individual dog and its merits, but as a rule, you know, Jack Russell's not good for posties. Border collies, not good.
Oh, my boy's a toy poodle. He wouldn't harm a fly, mate. He's lovely. He's brilliant.
I mean, I've got a Hungarian Vizsla, and he's got a real big bark. And our postman comes in, he's like woof woof, and he'll stand there with his chest out. If he walked in and went, "Come here, boy," he'd be like, "Yeah, come on." Stroke me.
Steve, rescue us from the dog chat.
Dancing Queen or Waterloo?
Oh, Dancing Queen, I think.
Very good. Best prank, Matty, played on the team, mate?
Oh dear, I don't know. Let me think. Early on in my Swindon days, we were at a hotel at an away game or whatever, and I can't think who I was rooming with. Maybe I think I was rooming with Sol Davis, and young James Williams and Paul McAreevy were in probably the next room, or maybe 2 rooms down. So we said, we'll come down, play a bit of computer or some cards or something. And me and Sol, we've taken a tube. It's Friday night, taking a tube of Pringles down there. Except there's not Pringles in the tube of Pringles. There's something else in the tube of Pringles. You might be able to guess what it was. But
I've got a pretty good idea, Matty. You put it in there.
I can't possibly comment. So anyway, we've gone down there, like sneakily walked in with it and just sort of put it by the bed. We're in there for a little bit. We've come out, and like little Willow, he loves his food. He was a greedy little fucker. So we put it under the bed so he couldn't really see it, and then like phoned his room. So Willow, have I left me tube of Pringles in there? Knowing full well he'd be like, yeah, straight into them.
Yeah,
and then we could just hear, like, he's opened the lid and he's just gone, "Eh, you fucking dirty bastard."
Did he go hands in? Did he actually pile in?
I don't think he went hands in, but it was just the fact of flipping the lid, expecting some sour cream and chive. That's not what he got.
I was thinking I might get some ideas there, but we won't be using that one. No. I don't think it'd go down well this time.
Like you said earlier,
as kids say, Steve, it was a different time.
Exactly, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Who wants the next one? Dan, do you want the next one, or Steve? Who wants it?
Yeah, whatever, go for it. Yeah. So, what do they call bees in the US? It's hornets in it, I think. I don't know.
Well, no,
they're clearly USBs, aren't they?
Oh my god! Is that one of yours, Mark? Jesus Christ!
Guess who squeezed the quick cheeky dad joke in there? So I'll move this on quickly. Matty, someone wants you to tell us an interesting Grimsby fact.
A fact? Oof. I don't think there's anything interesting about Grimsby, to be fair.
Well, apparently, this person has followed up by saying that Grimsby make more pizza than the whole of Italy in a typical year.
I mean, if they've got that good authority, then I have to agree with it. But I've got no idea.
Well, I'm guessing that's what, Finders or someone like that up there. Is that right? Are they in Grimsby? It's got to be something to do with frozen
Youngs,
pizza.
isn't it?
Yeah, mate. Well, it's Youngs are the but they just. I mean, that's just frozen fish, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's your prawns and that, mate. That's your
Here's
prawns.
I've got a question about Grimsby, actually. You might know. Why is there red seats in their ground?
Oh,
Yeah, no idea. It's probably the cheapest ones they could get hold of, I suppose.
probably
yeah,
got sold to them by Swindon. Probably sold them during your era, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's the same as Brentford. Brentford have got all kind of mixed colour seats, but I suppose if they ever filled the ground, you wouldn't notice. But that's never going to happen, is it? So.
No. Well, it looks like there's another Grimsby related question coming up here. Is this one for you, Steve?
They're going cod or haddock.
I'm going cod all day long.
Oh, now that's controversial, because I think I know where that question's coming from. That would make you a bottom feeder, Matt Heywood.
Yeah, well, sometimes
feeder.
I'm up for anything.
If Pringle tubes or anything to
Well,
go
that's-
by, Matty, I think,
yeah. Well, that's
I think we're inclined to agree.
Yeah, that's how I tend to eat my cod, sort of like a suppository. I sort of put it up there and absorb it.
We're on the penultimate question, Matty. Is the Adver Player of the Year award cursed? And for the good of the fans' sanity, should it be abolished?
I don't think so. No, I think it's the one that that's the one that you want to win, really, because it's sort of voted for by the fans. I'm not sure what the curse is. I suppose.
I think I've got a good idea, because it seems like everyone that wins it then immediately leaves.
But I think that's just the nature of, if you've had a good season, chances are that you've got irons in the fire to move on, I suppose. But no, I mean, I always used to. Back when I was playing, there was no social media or any of this, but we always used to, you couldn't wait to get the if you'd won and played well, get the old Monday paper, see what mark you got. I mean, just the fact that John Richardson's giving you a mark out of 10, but you used to I mean, it doesn't fucking matter, but it used to. And imagine being on social media now, I can't think of anything
really
worse.
stupid with how he normally sounds, but you was like,
Didn't AK win that last year?
I think you did,
Can you hear
and
me?
I think at one point it was looking like he was off.
Yeah, well, he's definitely still there.
Yeah, no, he's definitely still there. Although, what was it? Was it just Portsmouth Hoops that he went to during the summer on trial? Was there anything else?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously he was out of contract, wasn't he? So he had no,
Yeah.
he had nothing tied down. But
I seem to remember there was that period, and it was probably, I think it was around your time, Matty, I think, or just before, where we had Miguel Dominguez, who was there, Player of the Year, he went. Rhys Evans, I think, Player of the Year, he went. It just seemed to be like a serial thing. I think Tommy Mooney was. I think it was Moon's not Player of the Year as well that year, the playoff year. Or was that you, Matty? Because you were.
No, that wasn't me. I was before then. Yeah, that might have been Tommy. I know Sam was probably Player of the Year before, and then maybe it was me. But yeah, like I say, I just think that's something that comes with the territory. If you've had a good season, the chances are, especially back in my day, the way that Swindon was run, the chances are that you're going to get offers to move, and you can't really turn it down. I suppose it's a little bit different now. But back when I was playing, it was, that would have been part of the core.
Yeah, and it's ultimately it's going to be. I mean, it's football's football at the end of the day, isn't it? If you've got that as your unique selling point. Look, I was, even if a club's got relegated, if you can turn around and say, well, I was the Player of the Year, or the best of a bad bunch, or I was Player of the Year in a side that almost got promotion, well, you're probably good enough to take a step to the next division. So the way football works, you can imagine that's quite a selling point. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I can look back, when I played football, I never thought I would ever leave Burnley when I was there. I joined as an apprentice, a schoolboy apprentice, broke into the first team, was there a couple of years as a pro. And in your head, you just think you're going to be there forever. I mean, no one ever is, but and then all of a sudden, when it came to the fact I was moving, it was like, oh, shit, I'm moving. It was a really big thing. And then you move, join Swindon, start playing, doing well, and then you think, I'm going to be here for the rest of my career. It's not like you're always thinking, where's next? It's only as you get older, but when you're young, you just think, this is me forever. Like, I'm always going to be doing this here.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we're down to our final question, and it's the show's signature question for silly questions, Matt. The Kaiser Chiefs predicted a riot. What do you predict?
Oof. What do I predict? That's a tough question. I'd not done my homework that this was a question that I had to sort of research. Oof. What do I predict? Kaiser Chiefs predicting a riot. Peace to all mankind, I think. If they're going riot. Peace to all mankind.
We could do with a bit of that. I mean, personally, I would have preferred it if you turned around and said I'm predicting promotion for Swindon Town this season, Pat. But peace to all mankind. That's very gracious of you.
I didn't realise this was a football podcast. You just said, "Come on, talk a little bit of shit, have a bit of crack, and that'll do us."
But listen, you could have left and carried some favour, Matt. But you've still played a blinder, whichever way you look at it. Those,
I'm auditioning for Miss World.
Those were your silly questions, Matt Heywood. How were they for you?
Yeah, that was great. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, we've got, Matty, you're more than welcome to hang about. We're basically just going to tail off by, at this point in time, we haven't got any games to talk about in terms of the last football week, but we've got a game coming up on Saturday against Rochdale. How's the mood in the camp, Hoops? Is everyone back and raring to go? Are we in good shape?
Yeah,
Obviously,
decent.
Appreciate there's things you can and can't say.
Well, we had a few days off, didn't we? Which has been nice.
Yep.
Have you been to Dubai?
No. Can you imagine?
Who else has been to Dubai?
Imagine the kit man off to Dubai. Yeah, I can't say it myself. But no, like everyone's come back, everyone's rested and ready to go, I think.
Outstanding. Well, as I say, I know obviously for political reasons there are certain things we can and can't say with our crest over our hearts. So I won't push you on it, Hoops. How you let's go with prediction. Matty, Rochdale, obviously not in the greatest form. They've not had the best season in the world. What's your prediction for Swindon Saturday?
Well, I think Swindon will win. I'm going 2-0. I think
we'll take a nice 2-0.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the whole season's been pretty unpredictable. Good runs, bad runs, away from home, then at home. It's just, but yeah, I fancy a 2-0 win. I think look at the table. It's still so tight. Like anything could happen, couldn't it? So.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting one, Matt. I appreciate that. This is our silly questions is more of a banter one, but a serious question. The looking at obviously the fact that the team collectively didn't have a pre-season. I mean, we've had some pretty wretched luck recently with injuries, suspensions. I mean, the team at times have looked like. I mean, they're clearly the lads are giving their all, but at times it looks like they've been on fumes. To what extent do you feel those lads not having a collective pre-season's playing in some of those problems?
Well, yeah, it's a massive thing. I remember sort of doing the Monday night thing on the start of the season, pre-season, and there were literally 4 players. There were 4 players going to a pre-season game, and the youth team were in. It was like, there was no club, there was no team, there was nothing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, click your fingers. A month down the line, new owner, loads of players in, manager, director of football. And at that point, everyone obviously was like, it's just great to have a club, stay in the league, do this, do that. And obviously it started well, and it doesn't take long for people to be like, oh, we're doing all right, we could do this. And then next thing it's like, oh, we should, and then they're moaning, lose a game, and we should be getting promoted from this league. But yeah, if you go back to that pre-season, there was no club. Like the club were literally on the brink.
Yeah.
So to even be in the hat for playoffs, top 3, and I know people come back and say, well, how long are we going to go on? This spiel about start of the season we didn't have a club, but that's the truth. And these players have just sort of been brought in, chucked together, and they're doing all right.
So, Matty, from obviously, as Hoops has just said, clearly, like we didn't have a game last week, and we were very unfortunate hearing the news that Harry McCurdy's picked up a knock. But I think most of us were hoping that it was almost going to act like a bit of a sort of almost like your winter break. What's to what extent, put your old sort of pro hat on, do you think that is going to help them between now and the obviously we're in the running? How is that going to help the running?
I mean, I don't know, to be honest. It's sort of individual at a club. Depends how many players you've got injured and whatever. Speaking like personally, from when I was playing, I would have sooner played every week. I was one of those lads, just knockout games, Saturday, Tuesday, like steady Eddie, mindset on the game. You know what you're doing. Your timing's there as a defender, especially.
Yeah.
It's all just sort of routine. I never used to like having a couple of weeks off for a game. The training. If you've got time off games, the training ramps up. So it's harder working training. You do this, you do that. Coming back in pre-season, I never used to enjoy the games because it's all the little things like your timing and all those sort of things as defenders. The ball's in the air, you can't pick it. Little things that people wouldn't notice, but you do as a player. So yeah, I'd just sooner go game, knock another one out. You know what you're doing. You're in the routine.
Yeah.
But if there are players out injured and you need them back, then that's obviously a great thing.
I mean, it's an interesting one, Matty, because obviously we had some games earlier in the season where teams had enforced breaks mainly due to COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, Northampton was a prime example. I mean, Hoops, you'll remember that obviously really well. You would have been on the pitch, touchline. Did you get any sort of vibes I appreciate you wouldn't have been in the dressing room necessarily amongst some of those clubs that had those enforced breaks when we played them and then given them a spanking, but it's kind of like a bit of a double-edged sword, this, isn't it? Because Matty's bang on. You get into a rhythm, don't you, with playing games. Particularly if you won your last one, you're thinking, right, here we go. Now, obviously, slightly different for us because it wasn't the case. And there's me saying, look, watching from my position in the town end, some of the lads were looking like they were running on fumes. So for me, I was thinking a break's going to probably be a good thing for them. But as we say, some of the teams earlier in the season, about the time you get a lot of managers campaigning for a mid-season break. They got their break and they came back and they looked way off the pace. I mean, Northampton was the perfect example of it.
I think it's slightly different with COVID because if a lot of you guys have had COVID, when they come back, it's not as easy as just starting again.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously affected your lungs and you've been, fatigued and, it's not like you've just had 4 or 5 days off, had a rest and come back. So I think that's the difference there. No one's been ill, any niggly knocks we've, kind of got over and, we've had a bit of a rest and everyone is, regenerated, ready to go. Whereas for those other teams, when they've, had a break for COVID and then 10 days after testing positive, they're straight back on the pitch, or having maybe one training session altogether and then having to play on a Tuesday night or on a Saturday afternoon away from home after going overnight. And I think it's a little bit different for that situation than what we've had here.
Well, as I say, me personally, going into the weekend, my tail's up. I'm going for a nice juicy 3-0. Steve, for obvious reasons, I won't be asking you to give me a prediction unless you want one, but
I don't do them anyway.
Very good. So Dan, what's your feelings, mate?
Well, I'm on a similar mindset to Steve. I don't like doing predictions on games. It's just this thing in the back of my mind. I just hate it coming back on me if I said, we're going to win 3-4-0 and then it doesn't.
I feel like I've basically been thrown under a bus, but that's great. Thank you very much.
It's so hard to predict football, and my betting slips will tell you that from over the years. So, listen, we all want Town to win, and I think that's all I need to say.
Aye, that'll do me nicely. Well, look, I know for a fact, Matty, you're up early doors, mate, on your rounds. Matt, honestly, can't thank you enough, mate. Thanks for coming on for the patter. Really, really enjoyed having you along, mate. And don't be a stranger. It'd be lovely to get you back on from time to time. We're it's not always nonsense. We do slightly more serious set pieces on the subject.
I'm not interested in the serious stuff. The nonsense is better.
It's always nonsense. Trust me, it's always nonsense.
Well, listen, we're always up for a bit of nonsense. We've got there's a few things coming up for our listeners to be aware of. Next week we are doing our first live show from the county ground. We've got Phil King, who we are essentially going to be broadcasting live from the event in the Legends Lounge. There are still some live tickets available. What we will be respectfully requesting next week, a little bit like Comic Relief, if anyone's going to listen in and you fancy listening into my and Verologic's evening with Phil King at the County Ground, please do listen in. But if you could, there will be links that are going to be circulated between now and next week. All proceeds are going to the NSPCC. Brilliant charity, very close to my heart, very close to Kevin Metcalf, the CEO of Verologic's heart. The NSPCC are going to be present on the night as well. So if anyone does want to listen in and you can't make it to the County Ground next week, please do follow the link. Any donation will be brilliantly accepted. And it's going to be a real treat for me to be broadcasting live from the County Ground with Tyler and the usual crew. We're going to have a lot of fun on the night. I spoke to Kingy earlier today. He's on top form. He's really looking forward to it. There's going to be the usual hijinks for anyone that's been up in the sponsors lounge with Kingy on a Saturday. You'll know that he's good value.
Mark, just to interject really quickly, mate, as well.
Yeah.
I've been speaking to Kevin Metcalf about this night that you're doing, and I'm actually doing a Phil King print. I'm doing a design which is going to be signed by Phil, and it's going to be auctioned off on the night.
Outstanding.
So yeah, that's going to be a little bonus as well, something for people to win.
Thank you for that, Dan. We appreciate that, mate. As I say, it's going to be a terrific night. As things stand, the lounge is the Legends Lounge is looking very, very, very well sold. But there are a handful of tickets left. So Kevin's asked me just to make sure you're all aware, you can still get yourself in. So it will be on the 7th. So yeah, and it would be great to meet as many of you in person as I can. And then the following week, I'm delighted to confirm that we have got former Premier League Mercurial Wizard and one of our heroes of '93, Mickey Hazard's going to be joining us on the Sutton Broadbent Lounge to talk to us about all manner of things, including his time at Spurs with Glenn Hoddle, his transfer to Swindon Town, then Hoddle's arrival at Swindon Town, the playoffs themselves, Mickey's eventual return to Spurs, and again, he's more than happy to receive questions from the floor as well. So that will be the following week. Thereafter, I've got a smorgasbord of brilliant guests coming on board, and it is fair to say every single one of them has got legendary status at our club and in the wider football world. So keep your eyes posted. It's brilliant fun doing this show. We don't do it for the money. I promise you, we do it for the love. And we're really, really grateful for everybody that comes on. Matty, like I said, mate, thank you ever so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure.
I'll let you guys go and stick your heads on your pillows. Thanks for everyone for joining in, and I'll catch up with you in person next week. Take good care.
Good man, enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Guys,
Matty.
good night.
Cheers, fellas. Bye.
Bye.
Now.
Bye.